Gabriel Tardio is quickly becoming one of the most dominant players of all time, and that's because he knows exactly how to control the kitchen. Gabriel has won 3 PPA golds within the last 12 months. What is he doing that we're not? After all, he has to be doing something to go from barely making it past the round of 64 to winning PPA golds. He's gone from a no-name kid from Bolivia to the next Ben Johns, except he's even better. It's pretty genius what he's doing, and in just a few minutes, you'll have his exact strategy to dominate at the net. Now, to win 3 PPA gold medals within the last 12 months is extremely impressive, except that's not entirely true because he's actually done this within the last 2 months. And to put the cherry on top, he has beat the most dominant team of all time, the Johns brothers, 3 out of the last 4 times they've played. So here's how you control the kitchen with offensive dinking, just like Gabe Tardio. Number 1, recover and hover. Gabriel is a master at doing this. After each dink, he'll recover back towards the center line and he'll hover over the kitchen. This makes the court feel extremely small for his opponents, and it gives him tons of opportunities to be offensive and take the ball out of the air. So let's talk about how you recover and hover. So Gabriel is a right side specialist, meaning that he plays on this right side of the court majority of the time. If he's playing mixed doubles, he'll typically play on the left side of the court. And he does a really good job on both sides, because what I didn't mention in the intro is he actually has a gold medal in mixed. He just barely got that 2 weeks ago with Jessie Irvin. So he's absolutely killing it and obviously doing something right. So the way that we recover and hover is if I hit a dink and they pull me off the court out here, I'm going to recover towards the center line. I'm not in the center of my box, but I'm recovering towards the center of the court, and I'm gonna hover over the kitchen line. I'm hovering over so that I can take balls out of the air, and I can either speed up the ball or I can offensively dink the ball in any location. And that's regardless of where he dinks the ball. If he dinks the ball straight up the line, he's still gonna hug towards the middle because he has such a big reach to cover the sideline. So if you're a little bit shorter than Gabriel, obviously you wanna stand a little bit closer to the center whenever you dink the ball in this location, making sure that you can still cover the line in case they speed it up over there. And then if they hit to this opponent over here, he'll reach in and take that cross-court dink out of the air. So if this opponent hits cross-court, he can typically reach in and easily take that ball out of the air because he's hovering over the kitchen. So here's a little bit of a pickleball hack that a lot of people don't know about, is that if I stand with my knees locked straight up and down and reach forwards, this is as far as I can reach. But this is the hack. If you bend your knees, watch how much further my paddle goes forward. About another 6 inches forward just from bending my knees. So if you want to have more reach, if you make the excuse maybe that you're a little bit of a shorter person, it's probably because you're not bending your knees. So as you're hovering over, bend your knees and you're going to be able to reach in a whole lot further into the kitchen. Now, this doesn't mean that he's speeding up the ball every single time as he's recovering and hovering. He sometimes is just dinking the ball in offensive locations. So he'll either dink it behind his opponent here, up the middle, which is majority of the time, or he'll dink it back cross court over there. Number 2, take balls out of the air. So if you do this one thing correctly, you'll be an offensive mountain for your opponents to have to overcome. Now the problem is that majority of players do this incorrectly. Now so many amateur players hear that they need to take balls out of the air, and so they're trying to be offensive and they're like, okay, I was told by a coach, take balls out of the air as much as possible to be offensive. And they're reaching in and taking balls that just make no sense to take. So the general rule of thumb that you want to use is if it's out of your reach or you're having to reach too far to where you feel uncomfortable, that's the key word, uncomfortable, don't take the ball out of the air. Let the ball bounce and then try to take the next ball out of the air. And that's where we take from tip number 1, where we're hovering. If it's beyond our reach or we feel uncomfortable, then we obviously don't want to take that ball out of the air. So the correct way to take the ball out of the air is going to be to figure out how far in you can comfortably reach to where you can hit a consistent shot. So best thing to do is to have either your partner or a camera show you how far in you can reach and take balls out, and then go and get reps in with your partner, figuring out which ones you're comfortable taking and which ones you're not comfortable taking. Because you're not going to show up to a match and then be like, okay, this is what makes me comfortable and this is what makes me uncomfortable, without having done any practice or prep work. You have to be able to figure that out with your muscle memory by getting reps in prior. And something to take note of, this is another little tip or hack, is that you'll be able to reach in further if you lift your back leg. So if I'm hitting a backhand dink, I'm gonna lift my dominant leg. And then I'll be able to reach in further as I'm bending through. If I'm hitting a forehand dink, I'm gonna lift the other leg. This is something that you'll see Gabe do all the time as he's either speeding up balls or dinking balls. So lift that back leg, you'll be able to get a little bit more reach, but figure out where your baseline is, where you're comfortable. That's the key word. Number 3 that Gabe does so wonderfully is he baits his opponents. There's one specific spot that you can hit on the court to bait your opponents into speeding up the ball in an unoptimal position. He uses this spot all the time, and it results in his opponent speeding up the ball and then him just literally putting the ball right back at their feet and ending the point instantly. And if you hit to this spot consistently, obviously your opponents are gonna pick up on that, so you don't wanna hit to it all the time, but baiting your opponents, a few times per match, they're gonna pop up the ball, and then you're gonna come out on top of majority of those hands battles that you're in. So what is that spot? Well, it's actually not so much a spot as it is a strategy. So if I dink and I hit to this opponent over here, and I pull them off the court there, I'm obviously gonna be hovering, doing the things that we talked about before. My next shot is gonna come up the middle here or behind my opponent. Since they're pulled off the court, I'm gonna come to this position because I just pulled them off. So you're watching where your opponent goes. If you feel like you effectively pulled them off the court and they do what they're supposed to do and dink it back up the middle so that they can get back into the point, you're then gonna take that next dink out of the air and put it up the middle. Now this is the spot that you wanna hit, is 1 to 2 feet past the kitchen line. So 1 to 2 feet past the kitchen line, and this is gonna make your opponents feel like they can take that ball out of the air and speed it up. So this is how you bait your opponents to take the ball out of the air when they're out of position. So if we flip-flop it, they just dinked me out wide and they're gonna use this strategy against me. I'm here, I hit that next shot. This person is gonna take that ball out of the air, and as I'm recovering, they're gonna hit this spot, and I'm gonna feel like I can take that shot out of the air. So I speed that up, and it's from an unoptimal position. First of all, my feet aren't gonna be planted. I'm gonna be scrambling to get to that ball. So now I'm out of position, I'm back, they're up, and second of all, I'm gonna pop that ball high because I have to hit it above the plane of the net. So my bait worked, and now I'm gonna take that ball out of the air, or in this instance, they're gonna take that ball out of the air and come out on top of the hands battle, so long as they can keep the ball down. So the offensive dinking strategy is to hit that dink out wide, hover over the kitchen, hit the next dink about 2 feet past the kitchen line. They're gonna take that ball out of the air because of the height, and then the next ball, you're just gonna put away either at this player right in front of you or at their feet. So what's great about this strategy is the fact that you can use it after dinking in any location, so long as your opponents are on a scramble. So I can either dink up the middle here and then pull my opponents out wide, because if at any time that I dink up the middle, both opponents are gonna come in. It leaves these sides open. So now that those sides are open, let's say that I hit that dink up the middle. Now that the sides are open, I can hit that dink 2 feet past there. Obviously, it's gonna have a little bit of height to it. It's gonna make them feel like speeding up that ball. So then I just have to be ready to hit that next shot down. Same exact thing if I pull this person out wide here. If I dink, pull them out wide, I'm going middle here, 2 feet past. That's gonna pop that ball up slightly. They'll speed up that ball, and then I just have to be ready to hit that ball back down at their feet. Number 4 is Gabe's dink looks exactly like his speed up. There's really no difference between his actual dink and his speed up, other than the very last second, he'll either speed it up or dink it. And so what this causes is confusion in his opponents, because they don't know if he's speeding up the ball or if he's dinking it, and then it also causes them to stress, and then they're gonna end up missing that shot because they don't know exactly what's coming. The exact same thing can happen with a wind-up dink. I think wind-up dinks are ridiculous, but they actually cause a bit of stress on your opponents because they think that you're speeding it up and then you end up dinking it, and all that's doing is just turning up their temperature. And so by so doing, they're gonna get really tense and hopefully miss that next shot. A wind-up dink looks something like this, and then I just end up dinking the ball. So it looks like I'm gonna speed up the ball. I have this big, huge backswing, and then I just dink the ball. Same exact thing on the backhand side, and then I end up just dinking the ball. But for Gabe in particular, he doesn't use the wind-up dink very often. All that he does is he just acts like he's dinking, and then he'll speed up the ball. And you don't know that that speed up's coming because it looks just like his other dinks, except for that last second of the speed up. So let's figure out how he does this. So the first thing is that we wanna make sure that we don't have a massive backswing. We wanna have the same exact back motion as we would for a dink. So what you need to figure out is, what does your back motion look like if you're going for a dink in comparison to a speed up? You wanna make sure that they look the exact same. For me personally, I'm coming back to about here. My paddle face is going to be open. So it's looking like I'm dinking. And something that Gabe does beautifully is he opens up his paddle face and then he'll close it as he hits through the shot. So I'm here, it's open. This does not look like a position where I can speed up the ball at all. Nobody's gonna suppose that a speed up is coming because my paddle face is open. When they see open, they think up. They think that I'm going to either dink the ball or lob the ball. That's all that they can really expect. Chances are your opponent's gonna dink the ball. So we're in this loaded position. We're then gonna come down, start moving outwards, and then last second, we're gonna do a windshield wiper motion over the ball. So I'm gonna close my paddle face downwards, windshield wiper up like I'm waving hello to my opponent, and that's as small or as big as the motion is gonna be. Finish out in front, and that way you're ready for the next ball to come back, because chances are in pickleball, the ball is going to come back. You're not gonna show up to a tournament or show up to your next rec game and be able to do it. You gotta get out and drill it. And so for drilling this specific shot, I would suggest getting a ball machine. You can obviously do this with another person, but it's gonna be hard because you're gonna have to be chasing balls down all the time. Every single time that you speed up the ball, your opponent's gonna be over here, and so the point's instantly gonna be over because they're dinking cross court. That's why I suggest a ball machine. Get any ball machine that you want. If you want the ball machine that I use the Titan. By far, the best machine is the Titan ball machine. I suggest this machine to anybody. You can get $100 off through my link. It hits you balls in different locations, has the fastest motors, fastest ability to change from going fast to slow. Greatest part about it is that you can just put it in one spot on the baseline, stays in that location throughout your entire drilling session, and you can make any edits from your phone. So you don't have to go back and forth to the machine to make edits. You can just simply pop out your phone, click stop, change the drill really quickly, and then continue drilling. Number 5, Gabe turns defense into offense. So a lot of the time you'll see Gabe in a scramble to hit a forehand dink way over here. So they'll hit the ball behind him, he's in a scramble, and then he'll get to that ball, and the way that he turns that defense into offense is by hitting underspin or slice. So he hits underspin on, I would say, probably the majority of his dinks that he's hitting. And the reason that he's hitting underspin is because it looks like you're dinking. And just like how we talked about before, when you're hitting underspin, your paddle face is up, they think you're dinking. You roll over the ball, they're not gonna be expecting that next ball to come. Whereas if you're pulled out wide and you hit topspin, that's an extremely difficult shot to keep in, first of all, and also keep low enough that they don't attack the ball. So it makes sense for him to hit under that ball when he's pulled out wide. His location is either gonna be back cross court or it's gonna be up the middle of the court to take away his opponent's angles. The way that you hit an underspin dink is actually extremely simple. Obviously, like I said before, you have to get reps in with it. But all that you're doing is you're scooping underneath the ball. As you can see, my paddle angle slightly changes as I scoop under the ball. You wanna act like you're scooping out a bowl of ice cream, and you're just gonna finish with your paddle out in front of you. You're starting just like a normal dink to the side of you, come under the ball, create that little scoop motion, and then you finish where you wanna go. So you're gonna be pointing the tip of your paddle wherever it is that you wanna go. If I wanna dink back towards the middle, I finish pointing towards the middle where you guys are. If I wanna go back cross court, I finish by pointing back cross court. My motion's a little bit bigger in doing that, but it's the same exact structure where I'm scooping underneath the ball. Number 6, he controls the point from the middle of the court. So he's actually a right side specialist, as we talked about before. He's playing on this right side. You don't see the right side player taking middle balls very often, unless it's Gabriel Tardio. And obviously he's doing something right with the amount of golds that he's won in the last 2 months. So we should probably take some notes from him. But as he's coming into the middle, he doesn't just settle for a backhand, which would probably make most sense to most people since that's on his backhand side. He'll hit a forehand on majority of these shots. As I said, he's hovering in, he's reaching in, he's taking the ball out of the air as much as possible, and he's controlling the point from the middle of the court. With this, if he's hitting on his backhand side, obviously Gabriel has the same exact ability to hit huge angles on his backhand side as he does on his forehand side. Only difference is his forehand side is gonna have a ton more control. Everybody's forehand tends to be a little bit better than their backhand because high fives, okay? We've done them our whole life, right? But we've never done back fives. These don't feel comfortable to majority of players. So he's not settling for a backhand. Instead, he's hitting forehands, and he's either hitting them back towards this location, back up the middle, or cross court, and he's moving his opponents around, creating angles where there's normally no angle to create. Now, if you think about this from this perspective, if this player is to take these forehands in the middle, it's a lot harder for them to be able to create angles. So in order to hit the ball back cross court over here, it's gonna be difficult to keep that ball in consistent and low. And also over here is gonna be a little bit difficult, but not as difficult as hitting this shot. Hitting up the middle is gonna be about the same. Whereas if you just take it from this angle, this shot's extremely easy to hit cross court. Really easy to hit up the middle. And then just inverting your wrist and putting it back cross court is gonna be the most difficult of the three, but it's gonna be a whole lot easier in perspective to this person hitting this ball cross court over here. So it actually makes a lot of sense, him being aggressive from this side and controlling the point from the middle. So if you want to win more points, make sure that you're hovering over the middle, especially as that right side player, and moving your opponents around with aggressive dinks, taking the ball out of the air when you're comfortable, and not missing an opportunity to speed up the ball. If the ball is ever above the net tape, great opportunity to speed up the ball. Just be ready for that ball to come back. Number 7, he places the vast majority of his dinks in the same exact spot. This specific spot causes his opponents to pop up the ball a whole lot more often and make them feel pressure to create something out of nothing. This spot is the middle dink. So he's simply hitting his dink up the middle of the court. This cuts off his opponent's angles. If you think about the court like this, if I'm standing here, my ability to hit a huge cross-court angle over there and a huge cross-court angle over there isn't as big as if I'm standing here. Now I can literally hit a ball and it'll go and hit that side fence almost by the net post. I can also hit directly up the line here or up the middle. My options become huge as my angles become bigger. So angles are small, and then my angle becomes big. So you can see the difference in size of my angles here to then here. If I stand over here, my angles become big over here. I have a whole lot more angles to work with the further out that I move. So as he hits his dinks up the middle, he's taking away his opponent's angles, or he's making his opponents feel like they have to create angles out of where there is no angle. So the next time you play, I give you a challenge to hit majority of your dinks up the middle. I'm not saying to do this every single time, but hit majority of your dinks up the middle and be ready for your opponents to pop up the ball. Because another great positive to this is the fact that when we're standing at the middle of the court, I dink here to my opponents who are standing here. They have the least amount of room to work with. They feel a whole lot of pressure, especially as I'm hovering over. So it makes it feel like their only option is to hit the ball out here. Chances are they'll pop that ball up and then I can speed it up for a put away. You just want to make sure that you're not on the opposite end of getting baited, just like how we talked about before. So those are your 7 tips to be a great offensive dinker, like the best offensive dinker in the world, Gabriel Tardio. Don't forget to pick yourself up a Titan ball machine if you want to get these reps in. And check out this video right here if you want to get to the 5.0 level as quickly as possible. I actually did it in 3 months of starting pickleball. So be sure to check that out. I know that you're going to absolutely love it, and I'll see you on the next one.